Welcome to day 8 in the Advent calendar. Once again, the Secret Society malt calendar. These are single cask releases of interesting things from different distilleries. This is from the Old Malt Cask Company, which, I am not mistaken, is owned by Hunter Lang and Company, who releases a whole bunch of different stuff. Another interesting thing I've found from some of these distilleries is they are starting to create their own distilleries. So they have this whole heritage in buying barrels and sourcing and doing special releases, and then eventually just to say, you know what, we should start making our own stuff as well, and so they do. This is Balmenach. The Balmenach distillery goes back ages. Ages it goes back. And their ownership of Inverness and other, involves ownership of Knockdhu, Balblair, Old Pulteney, Speyburn, Glenlivet. So, huge storied history of this family. Oh, okay. And Balmenach, thing is, yes, another Speyside. 13 years, but this one is interesting. So they're making what is described by several people I saw talk about Balmenach as old style whiskey, which is worm condensers, slow fermentation, all these different things that the point is, all their process are the types of processes that lend themselves to heavier, richer, more robust whiskeys. And so I'm glad to see that even though we're living in Speyside, we are getting something that's a little bit longer, richer, and heavier, and it smells it. It's not pure sugar in the nose. It's a little more decomposing earth and slight moss surrounded by that sweetness. There's even a little bit of licorice in there. Oh, this is way more interesting. This is citrus and lemon and mixed with slight bitter moss, finished in vanilla. This has this base. The flavor of this is shaped like a Glencairn. It has this rock base that's like meat, and then it flowers out with all these citrus and fruity notes. And then it narrows itself into these slightly sharp, metallic sugars, like a vanilla, like icing type sweetness. And then it just kind of opens up into the air. Yeah, if I'm going to live in Speyside, this is going to be a little bit closer to my territory. It's all the citrus notes sort of take me back to like a lemon bread, like a pound cake, which is one of my favorite desserts because it's only mildly sweet. And I'm not a big cake fan, but pound cake, that I can do. Yeah, it's almost almond. That one sort of crawls out of it. This one, what I know about Balmenach and the whole area is I have a book called Scotch that if you can track it down, it's a great book. Robert Bruce Lockhart, he wrote it, and it's like a walking tour almost of all the distilleries of Scotland and the history of Scottish whiskey, and it's just really well written, and there's some great quotes and interviews and historical things, and one of them was that the gentleman at the distillery, McGregor, was involved in one of these distilleries up there, and he said he got a visit from a local taxman. And the local taxman is inspecting and he's not legally making whiskey. He's got a shed. He's making whiskey no one's supposed to know about. And they're hanging out and having a good time and talking and chatting. And eventually his friend, the tax man, says, what's in that peat shed? What's in that shed over there? And McGregor says, it's just a peat shed. And he says very calmly, well, if I were you, I would take out a license on that peat shed. And McGregor went, fair enough. And not long after that, they were a legally licensed distillery. The stories of Scotsmen hiding distillation from the authorities have some of the most amazing stories you'll ever hear. They're just glorious. Hiding whiskey under coffins and hiding them in funeral processions and out to sea and underground. It's really, really good stuff. I'm waiting to see. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this. I'm waiting to see if this opens up at all. And what I'm getting on this one, by the way, is a 50% even. The water brought out more of the black licorice and a little more of the grass, but it also made the end more creamy sweet instead of bright metallic sweet. And I actually preferred the metallic sweetness to the creamy sweetness. But that'll do, though. As pretty as that is, I think that's my favorite of the Speysides that we've had up to this date. But this calendar is turning into the Speyside Deluxe. All right, until tomorrow, may your crazy stay this side of legal, and may you return before we have time to miss you. Cheers.